Arknights Endfield is a brand new third-person tactical game set in the universe of Talos 2. Vaguely reminiscent of the original Arknights, but not quite a sequel. Now, the game probably looks familiar. It's vaguely inspired by games such as Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact. However, it's become quite infamous in the short time since its release, particularly because of its love of memes and the fact that it has a factory building element to it, which, quite honestly, I don't think anyone expected. And at least for me personally, I can definitely gush praise because it scratches that itch I have for games such as Factorio and Satisfactory. However, with that said, it is certainly not free of bugs, and while most of the complaints featured in this video are going to be minor, I don't think it's all that fair to complain too much, because most of these issues I have with the game are very minor. Things like animations, and honestly, the game is new. We're not expecting perfection right off launch. But, with that said, how about we get into the various segments? I'm going to try and divide up these segments as best as possible for anyone who just wants to know one or two things. But, with that said, enough yapping, time to get into the thick of it. So, to start off, we have the basic exploration and combat style gameplay. What I'm currently doing in the background is a nice little side quest. And admittedly, I got kind of distracted here. What I'm doing at the moment is killing these guys called Landbreakers. Without spoiling too much of the story, they're basically low-level thugs. And honestly, if you want detailed combat explanations, you came to the wrong place. But this gives me a great example to talk about something that I both really like and really dislike about the game at once. The game has loads of tutorials. Arguably too many. You don't need a tutorial for every single thing. If this game was capable of making a tutorial on how to move, they would do that. But, at the same time, there are certain instances where that knowledge is incredibly helpful. I have something like just under 200 hours in the game already, and I can say that I am still learning new things frequently. Because the tooltips are so thorough that they are both a blessing and a curse at the same time. And the nice part is, it's not even just for various gameplay mechanics. There's also dedicated tutorials for how to use operators and how to pair them up well with other operators to get the most of their abilities and the most out of their weaponry. And it's very, very well done. I mean, if you watch some of the combat sections, you'll see I'm able to use a combo skill with my second character, which is what the little E button is, and that'll electrocute the target, and afterwards, I use a skill to basically hit the target with a couple of poles, and it does a lot of electrical damage, and it's really nice. And I learned that from those tutorials. It's really helpful for learning how to use your operators. And the nice thing is those actually give you rewards for doing them, including some in-game currency, leveling up items, etc., etc. So it's not like they're just a mindless tutorial for the sake of completing. Also, for better or for worse, depending on what your playstyle is, there is plenty of side quests and puzzles that you can do at your own pace. For example, right now, I'm failing miserably at this crane puzzle because it was like 2 in the morning and I'm a fucking idiot. So, I'm trying to get this funny, shiny thing called an Oraline, which, honestly, I probably won't touch much on this video because there's better tutorials for individual things. I'm just here to give an overview. But, you'll learn about them in the first 5 minutes or so anyway. And on the topic of questing, there are plenty of main and side quests, as I mentioned before, but none of them really expire except for limited time events, which honestly are kind of whatever because you still have like a month to play them, and they're not that long, so whatever, not a big deal. But there's also no time limit to any quests, whether it's a main quest or a side quest. which is really nice because certain people, such as myself, tend to get really stressed out whenever they see a timer on their screen, because it makes them feel very anxious, and that can cause them to fold under pressure. But now that I just spurted out all that information about how good the questing system is, I will be very honest, there is a couple things I don't like. First, it doesn't really feel like you get much of a rest from quests. As in, you can complete one side quest and another one will pretty much just file in right behind it. It's kind of annoying, because for people like me who are completionists, it feels like you never truly finish, and it's kind of exhausting mentally, but fairly minor issue, I guess. The other thing is that a lot of the quest characters are generic models that you will never see again. I mean, seriously, there's like 3 quest characters that are side quests that I actually still interact with at all. And even then, it's mostly just package deliveries. And while we're talking about the packages, let's take a brief look at that, shall we? Now this is a little confusing. Currently what I'm doing is trading resources from the factory, which will be the next segment I talk about, for these things called Valley Bills. Now there's 2 different types of bills, technically 3 if you include the second half of the game, but we're not going to talk about that in this video because I haven't even started that yet. So essentially what I'm doing is trading goods for the sake of getting these things called Valley Stock Bills. Now, obviously, you produce these goods at the factory, but what it also does is it levels up prosperity. And that's really nice because of the fact that whenever it gets to a high level of prosperity, you can trade more goods, and they have more money to potentially give you for your items. But apparently my dum-dum self forgot to record any footage of me doing the actual delivery segment, so essentially you select what size of box you want, and you have to upgrade the depot where you're at in order to get a bigger box size and be able to do more materials, blah blah blah. It's pretty simple. You can see right here, I'm looking at the depot node in the Originium Science Park, and essentially you can just go ahead and put the items into the box, and then basically play a Death Stranding type minigame where you then have to run to whatever the designated spot is, talk to whoever you're supposed to talk to, and drop off the goods to get your stonks. There's also this cool thing here where you can basically just buy goods, and there's also this kind of weird stock type system that I'm not going to go into here because it's pretty simple. You buy stuff when it's super cheap, sell it when it's super expensive. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't really had any truly super good or super bad experiences with the in-game currency shop, and it just kind of seems like it works and that's it. It's not really amazing, it's not super bad. Also, I just died, Lamau, skill issue. Sorry. But my biggest thing about the shop that's a major gripe is it seems like the stuff at the beginning is purposely intended to be stupidly cheap, and a little bit later it's intended to be such an extreme grind over multiple days that it doesn't really feel worth it to buy a lot of the products in the shop later on, because you have alternate ways of getting them that are going to be more efficient and aren't going to make you hate your life. That's honestly my largest complaint about it. It just kind of works. There's also this really cool thing that, of course, my dumbass didn't think to actually bother to record, where essentially whenever you hire operators or try and acquire equipment, you get compensation for it, which can then be used to buy more stuff. It's really nice. It's kind of like a pity system, but not really, because it is a lot more forgiving than a pity system. But, with all that said, let's get on to my favorite part of the game, the factory sections. Now, I mentioned before that I really, really like this segment. And, on the one hand, that's true. But looking back at it now, I think I probably should have said at the beginning that I have mixed feelings on it. Because while the factory sections are indeed very engaging, sometimes the placement makes things feel very insufferable. We're talking about certain things being so incredibly scuffed to try and place that it makes you genuinely frustrated. Or hell, sometimes you just don't have the materials you need because you can't output enough items because your transport belts are the limiting factor and there's no way to upgrade them. They're all stuck on this slow-ass default, I think it's like 0.5 items a second transfer rate, which means, quick math, it takes about 2 seconds to pass one item per square. If you have a long production line of 12 squares, you're looking at a half a minute to get a single item there. That's actually crazy for the amount of space you have. I'm not saying you should be able to massively rocket your production through the roof. I'm just saying that I don't want to be sitting here waiting for 10 minutes to produce 10 components to make myself a piece of equipment. That, combined with some of the later buildings especially being way longer than they need to be, can make for some very frustrating placement. So much so sometimes that I have actually, on more than one occasion, had to completely remake a production line from bottom up because of the fact that one tiny thing didn't work out. It's genuinely infuriating. But with that said, this isn't a problem I come across super often. Now, maybe I just have a skill issue, but I think the conveyors need to have a way to become faster as you research. And I've mentioned this before, because it is actually the most painful part, is the conveyors. Not even things being kind of wonky, it's just the conveyors. What's the point of having splitters and mergers if you have twice as many inputs or output speed, twice as much input or output speed than you have of the opposite? If I'm putting 2 items in to a merger and it's going out, only one of those is going to be able to make it out in that time frame. However, given what's about to happen on screen right here, this is a great time to talk about one of the best things about this experience. By doing various factory simulations, which teach you how certain buildings work and how certain production lines should work, you get access to blueprints. And these things, especially if you're terrible at planning or just lazy, are actually awesome for the sake of managing space and being able to get things done efficiently. Hell, you can even make your own blueprints and then copy-pasta them everywhere. The game is very well done in that aspect, and it can prevent a lot of unnecessary frustration of having to build the same thing 6 other times. And honestly, prevention of repetitive tasks is nothing but a win in my book, because minimizing player frustration is almost always a good thing. So I massively appreciate the devs doing that. It's so nice. But with all that said and done, I think that's the last of my comments on the factory section. So, how about we go take a look at the cool floaty spaceship? So, welcome to my favorite section of the game. Well, why is it your favorite section, Hipper? Well, simply put, I am an absolute sucker for games that let you just sit around and interact with people you see on a day-to-day basis.
Here, something special straight from ocean.
I mean, come on. I just got a gift from a fucking panda with a nice accent.
Wait again. Please, take better care of your health. Want me to cook something?
Tell me that isn't amazing. Honestly. Not to mention the fact that the atmosphere is incredibly well built for a futuristic looking spaceship, and all of these people in the background, all these random people, are having their own individual conversations. It doesn't just feel like the generic background talking sound. It feels like they're actually having conversations that are relevant to the situation. It's extremely well done. Oh, and the interactions are always really cool, and the higher the trust, they can also have different responses. Not to mention that each operator actually has things they like and prefer.
Gifts are
That's
important.
way more detail than they needed for
I shall treasure
what
this
essentially
one.
comes down to an oversized dormitory. But it's well done,
Wow.
and you can talk to
This is
everyone.
new.
I think I've mentioned that like 4 times
No
now.
tasks for
It's
me today.
awesome. To add on to that, there's also loads of things you can interact with, as I mentioned before, but you can also build products and grow plants on your ship as well. Plus, there's also this cool little training area that you could technically access before, but, well, you know, it's another way to access the training. Again, plenty of tutorials for the game, and as you can see, I've been lazy and haven't bothered to do any of them because I am too lazy for that shit. But, you know, to each their own. So in just a moment, I'll head over to one of the manufacturing cabins. Now, my one very minor gripe with this is there's no way to choose what facility you put where. It's preset. Whereas for those who are familiar with the original Arknights know that you can choose what facility you want to put where. It's really nice, but unfortunately, minor nitpick, it's not in this thing. But I'm gonna shut up for a minute and just let you enjoy some social interactions.
After I told Antal that I didn't like his math games, he stopped.
It's not easy working with the other operators. The way of the pack and my solitary nature aren't for everyone. But if you want me in line, I'll adapt and make it work.
Now, we're gonna go ahead and head just across the hall to the growth chamber, which I mentioned briefly before. There are certain rare materials you need to upgrade weapons and also upgrade your operators.
Endman, please accept this humble token of my eternal and everlasting gratitude. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say.
Yes, I shut up for the cute interaction. So what? Anyway, those materials are extremely helpful. And while it's a slow process, it takes something like 20 hours, I think, to grow like 1 to 3 materials. It's better than having no sustainable source. And if you're wondering why I'm giving everyone breaks, even though they still have like half their mood left, it's because of the fact that, quite honestly, they work more efficiently when they're above 80%. So, yeah. At least it feels like anyway. Now, I'm not going to cover this too much because, honestly, there's not much to talk about, but this is the clue section. What it does is whenever you get enough clues, you can get a whole bunch of credits, which are a particular kind of resource that can be exchanged for certain rare items in the credit shop sometimes, and other times they can be exchanged for just basic tactical supplies. So it's still nice to check in on it, even if I don't entirely understand. Also, as you just saw, I just passed Operator Perlica, or Supervisor Perlica, whatever you want to call her. Whenever they go on break, they actually will go back to wandering. There's Chen. It's, again, minor detail, but I really appreciate it. Now, in here is the Wall of Flex, amongst some other things. So when I look to the right here in just a minute, you'll see me, I have a couple images on this sort of like hollow display board type thing. And it's cool because as you get more potential for your operators by getting duplicate rolls, you can actually level them up more and unlock these really well done pieces of art which you can then display on said holotape. But apparently my dumb butt decided we wanted to buy some shit before looking at the funny screen, so yay. Thanks, past me. Really cool. And just in case you're wondering, here's where the clue room is physically. So
Validating data.
that's really all there is in here.
Generating results. Greetings, Administrator.
But now that I'm done talking to Zaihi, you can see the image board. Now, it's currently got a picture of Snowshine on it, but it does eventually change if you have more than one selected. So I think in a minute I actually put a picture of Aviwema on there, the Australian bunny lady that I was playing as earlier. I must say I'm quite fond of her and her attacks, so that's why. But you see, there's a lot of really well done artwork, and it's honestly really nice to see. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply it there in a minute whenever my past self does his thing. There you go. And then it'll eventually change. There you go. There ya go. It's awesome. But now, here we go. The Wall of Flex. So, when you're out and about doing shit, sometimes you can earn these medals that you can engrave into the wall. I have a decent few of them, but not all of them. And you can get them from completing various landmarks in, for example, the story, or repairing things. So, for example, there are some that are repairing the robots. That one's for repairing front structures, and that was a limited time thing. It's honestly pretty cool. You can mix and mash it however you want. It's awesome. But with all that said and done, that's honestly all there is on Dijiang. It's really not a lot, which is kind of surprising given the size of it. But we're already 21 minutes into the video, so let's move on to the final section that feels like both a blessing and a curse, and you'll see why shortly. Now, aside from the conveyor belts from the factory section, this part is my biggest problem with the game. Now, the background footage here doesn't particularly matter, because honestly, I just kind of highlighted it as a very good example of what happens whenever you don't pay the animators enough to animate, especially mouths. I'll skip forward in the dialogue here in just a minute, but all you really need to understand is that this particular background scene is from the first limited event of the game, which is called something along the lines of Firewalker's Path or something. It's kind of confusing. I didn't understand the story very well. But, yeah, I'll just shut up and skip ahead. All I'm gonna say, watch the mouth animations.
So, this is Dijiang. Show me the places we saw in that maze. It's quite different from Rhodes Island. Excellent. Yes, for a new beginning. From now on, I shall be Lavatane and fulfill the promise made to my fellow companion. I know. So, you gotta make new memories for me. I can be your operator, your sword, and your fire. But in return, I demand a unique journey, a unique adventure, and a unique home. That will give me an Endfield of my own. A place where I can forget about my memories. What? That's too much for you?
This place won't disappoint you, Lavatane.
Neither will I disappoint you, Endman.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just me, but the mouths look really odd whenever they speak. It doesn't seem so much like the mouth animation looks correct. And sometimes characters just kind of stand there giving you this really, really rigid pose. And it is super awkward. Because I can recall this particular time in the early game where there was this issue with medicine, I think. And Chen just kind of stood there looking like she just had gotten like a deer in headlights. That's what I'm trying to say. It's really, really bizarre, and I don't know why it happens, but I don't know. It just seems like at one point the animators got lazy, and I don't want to be an asshole or anything. I love the game, quite frankly, but it's definitely got some work. All in all, though, I quite like it. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. So feel free to comment down below if you have any different opinions or any different thoughts on it. I am quite interested to hear what everyone thinks about the game, because my general consensus is that the gameplay is pretty good overall, but needs a little bit of polish. And I don't think that's entirely unfair, given the current status of the game. But again, it only released like 2 weeks ago, so all in all, I'm loving it, and I hope you all have found this video to be beneficial. If you have, thank you. Because honestly, I haven't posted in quite a while, and I just got the idea to do this randomly. I figured, hey, let's see if we can help some people out with this game that I've already sunk like 200 hours into by the time I'm done editing this. So anyway, enough yap. Thank y'all for watching, and have a good one. Bye-bye.